Hey there, thanks for tuning in. My name is Amanda, and I am a professional life coach, and I'm the founder of Illumination Unlimited. And some of you might have already seen me on TikTok. I have a channel there. It's at Illumination Unlimited, and I've done several Q&A videos on that channel, but they're pretty quick little 3-minute or less clips. And so I want to do this YouTube channel so that I can do longer, more extended Q&As. So now I have two Q&As that tie in together, and this is like my 100th take of doing my very first YouTube video because I'm not super technologically inclined, and I've kind of been fumbling around over this. So now I'm just jumping in with both feet first. And I decided that even though the two questions that I've recently received that I decided to do the Q&As on, I wanted to do them together, but I feel like individually they each deserve their own individual consideration and answers. And so I'm going to be doing a part 2, but my very first Q&A is about addiction. And I feel like I'm definitely the right life coach to talk to people about that because not only did I grow up seeing addiction from the adults around me, the closest adults in my life, and seeing how it affected their lives. But then later on in life, I was personally affected by it myself. And so, I do have experience with that. I think that I might be able to provide some useful information. So without further ado, my very first question for YouTube is from Crystal, and it says, "Dear Amanda, I'm 16 years old, and a lot of people I know have started doing drugs. A few claim to be addicted to where they can't stop. How does that even happen? How do normal people turn into addicts? Could they stop if they wanted to?" So first of all, I want to assure you that if they wanted to, if they really, really, really wanted to, yes, they can stop. And some people, especially when you're in the throes of addiction, would say like, "No, I can't. Are you crazy? No, I can't. I physically feel like I'm going to die. I can't stop. I've tried. I can't. I physically can't stop. I can't do it. I can't mentally can't do it. I can't live without the drug. It's too late for me. It's all over. I must do it." No, that's not true. If you look at statistics, many people have been in the worst throes of addiction that you can imagine, and they have been able to bring themselves out of it. They have been able to get clean and sober, and they have been able to go on to live happy, healthy, and successful lives. So don't ever let anybody tell you that once you're there, that you can't get out, because yes, you can. Is it going to be really, 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 really difficult? Yes. Yes, and depending on what drug you're addicted to, the withdrawals when you go to stop are very, very real. And a lot of times, depending on the drug, it's not something that you can do on your own. It's not something you can just cold turkey decide to quit doing. So for starters, Crystal, at the age that you're at, that is a pretty prime age for when we decide we want to start trying some things. Up until that point, we kind of still see ourselves as kids. And so we're not really in a hurry to grow up. We're starting to see some of the things that the grown-ups around us are doing and some of the older, kids. And we know that it's not good, right? We know it's not good. I don't think anybody's ever, thought that, I think you can do a healthy amount of meth, or I think you can do a healthy amount of coke, right? And we even go through like DARE class. I think that's still a thing, but I definitely know when I was in 6th grade it was. And they scare you pretty good about drugs and alcohol and how those things affect your life. And then you start to get a little bit older and you realize some of the things that they said in DARE class are BS. Like if you try a little bit of marijuana when you're a teenager, that's not going to automatically lead you to a life of doing heroin. That said, it's not completely false that marijuana can be a gateway drug. A lot of times that's the first one that we'll experiment with if it's not alcohol. When we decide that we want to be grown up and we want to start trying some grown up stuff in this world for the first time, a lot of times we'll dip our toes in. A lot of times we don't start out with, I've never done a single thing before, but I think I'm going to try some heroin. Or, yeah, I mean, I've been clean and sober and all. I think I'm going to try, some meth. Yeah, a lot of times it doesn't work that way. A lot of times we try something a little more innocent. Like I said, a lot of times it'll be pot. Sometimes it's pills. And a lot of times legitimately, like I know personally a young lady that was in a horrible car accident, really very morally stable, would never consider doing any kind of drug or anything like that. She gets in this terrible car accident as a young teenager, and they prescribe pain medication to her. And this poor girl had a lot of anxiety and everything prior to that, and realized that this pain medication was relieving her anxiety and making her feel kind of less stressed out. And it's an opiate, so it's making her even feel happy. It's releasing serotonin and endorphins and all that in the brain. It's affecting the brain in a good way, and she liked that feeling. And then the next thing she knew, she's taking pills when she doesn't need them, and then seeking them out not medically, unprescribed. That's when it starts to get scary. And I will say, most people don't start out doing heroin. How heroin happens most of the time is that somebody innocently gets prescribed pain medication, and then the pain medication runs out. They become physically and then accidentally mentally addicted to it because they realize it medicates things other than their actual physical pain for them. And next thing you know, they realize, well, heroin's cheaper. It's easier to get non-prescribed. Unfortunately, from what I understand, especially with teenagers, it's pretty easy to get almost any kind of drug you could ever want to get your hands on. And that's scary. That's very scary. So how does it happen? Okay, so backing up, whether it be a car accident to where you get dependent on pain medication, whether it be just a really stressed out home life, school life, friend life, you're dealing with stress, and you're dealing with negative human emotions, and it's 15, 16, at that age, that really starts to hit you hard. School starts to get really hard. Your friendships start to get really complicated. You start having romantic relationships that a lot of times end tragically and break your heart. It's like it's really hard at that point. So now we're getting things introduced to us that we think are going to help alleviate that. And let's be honest, you don't start doing meth because you want to look like the Crypt Keeper. And let's be honest, that's what happens. That's what happens. You become a weird zombie Crypt Keeper and not even human. Like, you're there, but you're not there. You're in there somewhere, but you're not driving the bus. That it never turns out well for anyone. 9 times out of 10, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, the person that tries the meth and then decides they're just going to party with it socially ends up selling their kids Christmas presents and doing horrifying things they never thought they were capable of doing just to get a fix. Their tooth falls out, well, crap, moving on. It's scary, it's terrifying, but yet the way that it chemically changes their brain, they feel like they need it, they feel like they're not okay without it, and nothing, like the part of their brain that says, I am dying, I am decomposing, I am turning into a corpse, I'm ruining my life, my kid's life, everybody that loves me and cares about me, I'm destroying everyone with what they, you can't think that way. That shuts down, you're done. It is really terrifying. And it's not the fault of the person that's doing it. It's the fact that they picked it up in the first place, and then they allowed themselves to do it enough that it got to the point that their brain naturally, as it's going to do, develop that dependency, thinking that it needs it. It thinks it needs that drug, that meth, that heroin, that cocaine, whatever, like you need water to survive. You chemically changed the way that your brain works, and the neural pathways and the reward center and everything has been changed chemically to where it's going to continue to feel like the addiction is going to feed off of itself. And you're going to get stressed out and anxious as you start to withdraw. You're not going to feel good. You're going to feel sick. The only way to make that better is to do more of the drug, and then you do more of the drug, and then you're going to feel more anxious and sick as it starts to wear out of your system. And next thing you know, there's your life. It's not worth it. There are so many ways to relieve stress and emotional pain and anxiety that aren't chemically related. It's not funny. I know this is a quick, easy fix, but there are even quick, easy ways that you can get your anxiety under control. There's meditation. If you don't want to take the time to sit down and meditate, there's quick breathing techniques. One, for instance, is the press your palm technique. Okay, so you're going to put your thumb in the middle of your palm and then pressing in kind of as hard as you can, because really you're going to find you're not going to be able to hurt that part of yourself by pressing in. You're going to breathe in. And you're going to hold it for 4 seconds. And then you're going to release the pressure on your palm as you breathe out. Slowly. And then you repeat. And even just doing it that one time, anybody that did that with me is probably already feeling kind of a little bit relief tingles, because you see where that loosens up everything that you have going on. And that's something, you've always got your thumb, you've always got your hand. That's something you can do, and nobody will even know you're doing it in a crowded room, in a classroom, in a high school lunchroom, any place like that. You can do this technique and you would be surprised with how well that works. And there's plenty of others. But the bottom line is, what you're using these drugs for, they aren't going to deliver for you anyway. Pain relief, well, you will get where it'll block pain receptors, but then when those receptors start to work again, your pain is going to be worse than it was when you started. And I say using it to relieve anxiety. Well, it might even briefly, but a lot of times I think people that do drugs trying to relieve anxiety, they realize they're still feeling anxious, but they're just being affected in other ways as maybe helping to distract them from that. So it's not even doing for you what you want it to do in the first place. And then talk about your self-esteem. Like, nobody's going to be able to be addicted to drugs and feel great about themselves and feel like a good, happy, solid, productive person. So you're always going to have underlying anxiety and severe self-esteem issues. And it doesn't end well for people that don't get clean. It doesn't. You can only, you might be, especially at 16 years old, you think you've got the world at your feet, you're invincible, like you've got your young 16-year-old body. I mean, what kind of damage could you possibly do permanently now? You can do quite a bit of damage now. You can permanently affect your physical body and your brain with what you do now. I mean, it's not worth it. There's no benefit that you're going to get from doing any of these drugs that is going to outweigh the damage and destruction that it's going to do in your life. It's not worth it. It's not fair to do that to yourself, and it's not fair to do it to anybody else. That said, I do want it to be said, I don't consider marijuana to be a dangerous drug. I do consider that to be a medication that, when used medicinally, it is very helpful for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And so I am an advocate for that. When legally obtained and used in a normal, appropriate way. A person can even abuse marijuana to where it can negatively affect your life. Let's face it, it kind of slows everything down, which is nice. It can be anxiety relieving, but the problem becomes when you're getting baked all day long and you're not able to be productive. I mean, it makes you okay with being bored. It makes you okay with doing nothing, and that creates an issue after a while. So even using marijuana to medicate yourself and make yourself feel right isn't helpful. So that being said, I'll probably do videos later about what I think that medical marijuana is useful for. Anxiety being one of those things, but again, if you're using it in an addictive way, then it's not going to be helpful to you, and it's going to be more harm than good. So it is really hard to say no when all of the people around you seem to be doing things, when you feel like people aren't going to like you if you don't join in. It's one of those, if you can't beat them, join them type of things. But it's not worth selling your soul. You'll find friends that don't do those type of things. You will find people to spend time with that aren't involved in those activities, and you can love people from a distance. So just because you love somebody dearly, you don't have to have them in your life if they're toxic and they're negatively impacting you, and you're feeling like you can't be around that person if you're not participating in some kind of terrible drug activity. So Crystal, hang in there. I know it's hard. I know it's confusing. Normal people turn into addicts every day, very sadly. And it's not, I don't like labeling somebody with the term addict, but at the same time, normal people develop addictions to many different things, like even things like gambling. If you watch My Crazy Addiction, it can be all kinds of crazy stuff, doll collection, whatever. Basically, if you're doing something in an obsessive way, excessively, trying to medicate yourself or make yourself feel better in some way, and it is negatively impacting your life, then you are dealing with an addiction and you need to get help. And some people honestly can stop their addictions. If you're not too far in, you can make a decision on your own that it needs to stop here. If you feel like honestly, I can't, that's like somebody's controlling my body, which the addiction actually is. But if you feel like something's controlling my body and making me go and take these drugs and I don't want to, and everything in me is telling me no, but I cannot stop, then sweetheart, you need to get checked in somewhere and you need to get some professional help. And there is no freaking shame in that. Those places they get filled up quick for a reason. There's a lot of people that accidentally play around with stuff that chemically changes their brain in a way that they weren't expecting. And then they realize that they're in over their heads, and it's not worth losing your life over. It's not. And your life can be fun and amazing and, not stress-free, because let's face it, that's not what life's about, but it can be beautiful. You can enjoy your days. You can enjoy your precious moments. You can feel good about yourself. Your self-esteem can be through the roof, and you can handle the stress and the problems that life throw your way. You can handle those things without feeling like you have to cover it up with something, because it's okay to feel your feelings. What if I told you that? It's okay to feel your feelings, even if they're bad. In fact, you're supposed to. That's all part of healing processes. That's all part of learning. That's all part of the human experience. So constantly trying to make those go away. Honestly, as I see it, when you are using a drug or other addictive substance to alleviate bad feelings in the moment, you're just you're borrowing time from yourself, because you're going to pay that price. You're going to feel that negativity in your life eventually in one form or another. So might as well deal with it in the moment, breathe through it, allow the feelings to happen, and know that they're not going to stay forever, and that you're going to be okay. Even if you have the worst, most terrible bad feelings, you don't have to constantly find ways to get rid of it and cover it up. So Crystal, I hope this helped you out. I hope maybe you can share some information with your friends. Maybe you can use it in your own life in some way. It's good to educate yourself. It was so smart to come to me with this question, and just keep on keeping on, honestly, and don't let yourself fall trapped to these things. And if God forbid, if you ever do, don't be afraid to reach out for help. And that is all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for part 2, because I have a really great, wait, I'm not even going to edit that. I have a really great question from Melanie that ties into the topic of addiction. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.